Because it's the truth. It's the truth. The truth of the matter is I am in a more aligned relationship than I used to be. Even if it wasn't a positive, it still would be the truth, and then I could at least live based on accuracy.
And the version of me that still worked at iRobot or, Sensata Technologies or Cognex, that version could never meet this version, could never compare to this version. Because this version, it is literally our job to grow as a person and to lead by example. And so we have a huge advantage when it comes to who we become as men.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. It was episode number 1534. Not everyone is supposed to be successful. Make sure you listen to that episode if you didn't and you hear that title and feel some type of way, because I think it will.
Very pessimistic title.
It's a very pessimistic title, which is...
Kevin chose that, not me.
Alan told me to say it, so I went with it. How dare you try to throw me under the bus. I will...
I tell truth.
Hey, watch your words, bro.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't listen, I promise it's probably more positive than you think. Today, for episode number 1535, we're going to put Alan in timeout, and this is going to be a Kevin solo episode. Is there a way to use comparison in a positive way? I feel like I shouldn't have used way twice there, but here we are. So Alan and I were having a conversation recently, and for a long time, Alan was not going on other podcasts because he was working on coaching and coaching the team, and as he says, building the business. I don't know what that means. Probably not a lot. He's probably just hanging out. And I said, Alan, I think it would be really beneficial for you to go on other podcasts because I think it's going to be really good for your self-worth. I said, when I was in the prime of doing these podcast tours, for lack of better phrasing, and I was going on 15, 20 shows a week, that happened?
Yeah, man.
I was going on a lot.
Was the PR.
So let's just say I was going on 10 to 15 shows a week. I said my self-worth really started to shift. And I know it's dangerous to put your self-worth into an external thing or into someone complimenting you or whatever it may be. But I think it would be really good for you to get out there and see how other podcasts are doing, because I know you're only comparing usually to where you want us to be in 20 years. I have the benefit of going and being interviewed or doing a coaching call with someone and saying, oh my goodness, I know I beat us up a lot. I know that I'm usually unsatisfied with our level of growth, or I'm grateful for what we have, but ambitious for where we're going. But I think that perspective is valuable because, I don't know, how else are you going to figure out how far along you are? I know when we look at social media, unfortunately, we're usually comparing to something that's just not realistic. But I don't necessarily think comparison has to be bad. If you're comparing to where you are today versus where you were 5 years ago and it's upward in the trend line, that's probably positive. If you have a relationship and every time you meet with your friends, they're always complaining about their partner, how they don't understand them, they don't value them, they don't try to empathize with them, it might not be bad to say, wow, I'm really, really super grateful for the way that my partner and I interact. I don't always, and this is the collective you saying this to yourself, I don't always realize how good I have it until I realize how bad other people have it, or how not ideal other people have it. So again, there's a lot of buzzwords, there's a lot of phrases, buzz phrases around comparison. Don't compare yourself to other people. Comparison is the thief of joy. If you're comparing to the wrong things, yeah. But I do think there are constructive ways to use comparison. Now, when I say comparison, I'm not saying judgment. When I go on podcasts, I'm not judging these other podcasters for where they are, but it helps me be very, very grateful for where we are, because on the day-to-day, it doesn't always feel like we're winning. Oftentimes, it feels like we're losing. So that is my goal in today's episode.
I knew I was going to adore this topic, so strong work, Kev.
Thank you so much for giving me that public compliment.
You're welcome.
I'm sure behind the scenes you will take it back and recant it, but I do appreciate it for this moment.
No, this is a really powerful topic.
I'm in
really powerful topic.
I'm in a jokey mood. I'm going to jiu-jitsu after this. Alan allowed me to take the rest of the day off. Just grateful. Hashtag grateful. You know what I mean?
You make it sound like he allowed you. No, you said, "Can I go to jiu-jitsu?"
You are technically my boss. Technically speaking. You don't like that?
I would say that I am a leader, not anyone's boss.
Fair.
I lead.
Okay,
And
you're my leader.
yeah, we lead. And you lead in the things I suck at. So it's all good.
That's fair.
Which is quite a few things, believe it or not.
I believe
more than I thought. Definitely more than I originally thought.
It'll probably be that way forever, unfortunately.
Yeah. So the reason I love this topic, Kev, is because I actually think that everyone, first and foremost, is everyone is comparing. It's impossible not to. The human mind compares. It always will and it always has. You don't know what a hot bucket of water is until you've felt a cold one. And there's a study that was done where they took students, put their hands in really a hot bucket of water and a cold bucket of water, and then they took their hands out and put them in two of the same temperature water. And even though it was the same temperature, one of them felt hot, one of them felt cold. So what it's called is your perception apparatus is the scientific term, but really what it's saying is that there is no objective reality, there's only your perception of it. And what I mean by that is you don't really know what a mansion is until you've also looked at a shack. You don't know what a mega yacht is until you've been on a regular yacht. And you don't know what a regular yacht is until you've been on a little paddle boat. And it's just very important for all of us to understand that the only way to conceptualize and flourish within the world is to experience all the different spectrums. And so we think black and white, we think up and down, we think left and right, we think good and bad. But in the world, there's a huge spectrum. And Kev's talking a lot about jiu-jitsu. He's going to go to jiu-jitsu tonight. And there's white belts and purple belts, and I don't know the belts, but the reason there's a belt is because there's a full spectrum of skill level so that you don't always fight a black belt and get your butt kicked all the time. Because if all you do is lose, you're going to feel terrible and it's going to crush your self-worth. But if you're only ever fighting beginners, you're going to think you're amazing when you're not. It's the big fish, small pond versus small fish, huge ocean. And that's why we have middle school and then high school and then college and then corporate, because it's set up to where if you had jumped from middle school to corporate, you'd get eaten alive. I remember when I was working for a company called iRobot. It's one of the more, if you've ever heard of the Roomba, people know the Roomba more than they know iRobot. And a lot of them are like, well, isn't that a Will Smith movie from the early 2000s? And the answer is yes. And also, it's awesome. The goddamn robots, John. Great movie, I think, honestly. But anyways, so it was ahead of its time. So I worked for a company called iRobot, and back then everyone was like, isn't that a Will Smith movie? I'm like, you know the Roomba, the vacuum? Preparing for Thanksgiving, we actually unleashed our Roomba. We've been using it ever since. So
we have a knockoff Roomba. It is a piece of garbage.
Our Roomba's really good. What are you talking about?
Ours is a knockoff. My mom gave it to me.
Oh,
they had it. They didn't use it. And I was like, yeah, we'll take this for a spin. And it's drunk. Things drunk all the time. Can't find its home.
This is fun for me. I was on the global product management team for iRobot, and it was awesome. I was in my early 20s. This is actually the point of my story. I was in some meetings that an early 20-year-old should never be in. It was really cool for me. But anyways, I actually tested all the knockoffs against our robot. Our robot. iRobot's a robot. At the time, I was, our robot. But I actually did a test against. What's the? Just for my curiosity, do you know?
I don't know the brand.
Is it a Sony?
No, it's like the
Samsung?
lowest. No, the lowest you could possibly get, probably.
Okay, it's like the knockoff chargers, iPhone chargers that never work.
Yeah.
Amelia and I joke, it's like Amazon's Choice, $7.99. Send me 4 of them. One of them might work. It's funny. But anyways, so the point of that story was I was in rooms that were way above my pay grade, way above my consciousness, way above my capabilities. And my aunt at the time, she said, what'd you think of that meeting? Because she worked there too. And I said, I was just in a meeting that no 20-year-old should ever be in. This is awesome. I was just soaking it all up, right? Anyways, comparison. You don't really know how business is run until you experience it. you don't really know what it's like to be in a mansion until you experience it. You don't really know what it's like to fight a black belt until you experience it. And so we do these comparisons in our head with no actual data, no real experience. Mm. And that's why everything, I think, is actually harder than it looks. Everything. If you watch someone on UFC, or you watch someone play football, or you watch someone play basketball, I'm telling you, it's way harder than it looks.
You ever seen somebody chop something, like an onion, super fast?
Oh, yeah, man.
You ever tried to do it?
Oh, yeah, man.
Damn near impossible. I don't even... In my mind, it's like, I don't know. Is this... you speeding up the TV or something? Because there's no way my hands and fingers... This is all you hear. And when I do it, it's like, chop, slide. Make sure my fingers... chop, slide. We were chopping onions for Thanksgiving. It took me about 30 minutes to get 3 of them down. So it's definitely harder than it looks.
Well, that's the other thing, too. Even this, Kevin and I, the greatest masters make it look easy. And I realized that I inadvertently just called us masters. But 1,500 episodes, of course we make it look easy. Lights, camera, topic, go. We've done this so many times. And so same with whoever was chopping onions. They probably are a chef. They've probably been doing it for 15 years. That kind of thing. And so back to the comparison piece. I like the analogy of a home. Whenever you go in real estate and you go to buy a home, and if you've bought a home, you know what I'm saying. If you're going to, this will be valuable. What the real estate agent does is they look at what's called the comps. And the comps are essentially comparable comparable houses in the area and what that sold for. So, for example, Emilia and I, when we're already planning on, hopefully by the end of 2024, we're going to leapfrog and go to a different home. And we're already planning on it mathematically, all that. But at the end of the day, we know what this home is worth based on the other ones that are selling around us. So we're in a big condo complex, and one of the homes just sold for a lot of money, and that got us really excited. Because hopefully that stays. I don't know, because there's macro market conditions and all that. But when it comes to comparison, you don't really know what you are worth, or what your home is worth, or what that water bottle is worth unless you compare it to other things. And then the last piece, I promise.
Hey everyone, I'm Helen Baker from Melbourne, Australia. I'm an entrepreneur and a client of Alan's from Next Level University. I've had many business coaches in the past, and I can honestly say that Alan is seriously next level. He has this unique ability to help you find a solution to your business problems. I can be vulnerable with Alan. I can share anything and feel comfortable in his presence. I feel empowered to do incredible things. So if you're looking for a business coach, I highly recommend Alan, because he will be instrumental in achieving your success.
It's a long monologue we have going on here. Macroeconomics, Roombas. What a wild time to be alive.
It's right? I was at the top of Mount Wachusett once. We hiked and we forgot waters. So we have since gotten way better at hiking. And I literally said to Emilia, I would pay $100 for a water. Even though the water bottle is only worth $1.50, in the context of having no water on that hot summer day at the top of the mountain, I would pay $100 for a water. That's how thirsty I was. We ended up finding a Powerade machine and buying like 6 of them. It was like halfway down the mountain. It's like an abandoned Powerade machine. But the point is that your value, your self-worth is based on a statistical comparison. It just is. And you have to look around and you have to compare. Just hopefully you're not comparing. I just want you to compare intentionally and intelligently so that you're accurate.
We've said this many times, the ceiling and the floor. Mm-hmm. Accuracy with the ceiling and the floor. The ceiling is the people who are the best at it. The floor is maybe the people who are quote-unquote the worst at it. Here's the truth. You're probably closer to the ceiling in many things that you do not give yourself credit for. You're probably closer to the floor in some things that you don't realize yet. I think one of those can be, I think they both can be empowering if you know how to use them. But I don't necessarily think a blanket statement of comparison is the the thief of all joy, I don't think that's real. Because what if you're not giving yourself the credit in a positive comparison? Mm-hmm. If you and I spend time together and you cook something and then you compare to what I'm cooking, you're probably going to feel really good about yourself. Because I'm not a great cook, and you should. You should feel really good about yourself. But maybe something else, you might not feel that good about yourself. But that doesn't mean it's bad to compare yourself. I think it's really good to get an accurate understanding of where you land. Again,
Can you share what Taryn shared with you recently? Because that was also a valuable comparison.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
When she hangs out with her friends?
Yeah, I think that this happens with a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people behind the scenes. If you have a partner, you're siloed with echo chamber. You're siloed. You don't really know how else or how other people get treated. So if you have a partner, every night when you get home, maybe they have a certain thing they do. Maybe they complain about their day. Maybe they, whatever it is they do. You don't know what that's like if you don't compare it to somebody else's relationship. So what has happened in the past, probably more to Alan than to me because I don't speak a ton. I don't give a lot of specifics on my relationship. But Alan and Emilia's relationship can be triggering for other people because you'll hear, oh, we had this conversation, or this is the level of truth we have with one another. And if that forces you to compare your relationship to Alan's, that might trigger you. When you say, oh, that's not what my partner's like. My partner's not as into growth as Emilia, or my partner's not as into growth as Alan, or my partner's not really good at taking responsibility at that level. But you wouldn't really understand it unless you compared it to something else. So the opposite end of that. If you just left a very, very, very toxic relationship, the worst relationship you've ever been in, hopefully not unimaginable things, but let's just say it wasn't great, and you get into a new relationship that is okay, you're going to think it's amazing because you're comparing it to your last relationship. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that can't serve a purpose. I'm not saying that isn't a bad thing or isn't a good thing. I'm not saying any of that. But you do need the contrast to figure out how good something actually is. One of the reasons I'm so grateful for the relationship I have right now is because I am comparing it to other relationships. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I'm so grateful...
Can you talk about why that's not a bad thing? You know what I mean?
Because it's the truth.
Why is it empowering to do that?
Because it's the truth. It's the truth. The truth of the matter is I am in a more aligned relationship than I used to be. Even if it wasn't a positive, it still would be the truth, and then I could at least live based on accuracy. So,
right.
Right?
So the situationship that you talk about...
Yes.
Let's say you were to run into you and Taryn.
Yes.
And you were to see the level of love and emotional intelligence and vulnerability and inspiration, right? That would be like, ooh.
It would hurt.
Damn, I don't have that.
Yeah, it would hurt.
It's empowering because then you can leave that relationship and not settle and aim higher, and hopefully you'll end up with a better relationship than before.
If we're under the assumption that if I compare to something it means that I can't get it, then I can see why it would be negative.
Right.
If we're under the assumption that if I compare to something, I'm comparing to something that I desire and I'm going to work towards, I would say that's super empowering.
Right, which is predicated on self-belief.
As most of the stuff, self-belief, self-worth. That's why we usually go back to thinking those are maybe the two most important things in the world, self-belief particularly.
That's what I tell people too, because Emilia, without question, I say this to her, behind the scenes, front of the scenes, I'll always say this because it's just the truth. Greatest gift of my life, hands down. Even when we did the regret episode, Kevin asked me, what would you go back and change if you could? I said, is this presupposing I still meet Emilia? Because I'll go through all of it again if I have to meet Emilia again. But if you guarantee that I meet Emilia, I would change so much. I would change like 80% of my choices. Holy crap. But that's a me issue. The point is that I always tell this to people, Emilia's the greatest gift of my life, but they would say like, I want to meet my Emilia. And it's like, your Emilia is out there. It's not going to look the same.
Right.
It's going to come in a different package than you want, and it's definitely going to be different than what I have. That doesn't mean better or worse. It means contextual to who you are. and this has actually been a real problem, and I know some of our listeners will resonate deeply with this. We've had listeners in the past that compare their relationships to Kevin and I's relationship. And that can be a dangerous game because what you need to compare to is the way we used to be. This is the benefit. We have a real advantage, and I want to be very honest with this. Not everyone has 1,530 episodes contemplating their own emotional immaturity, their own poor choices. I mean, Kevin and I get better for a living. If you have a husband or a wife that goes to work where the epicenter, the core of what they do is not to go get better, they have a huge disadvantage. Because if you want the most well-rounded, holistically well-developed man or woman as your partner, and you're comparing to Kevin and I, it's going to be very hard. I mean, imagine the version of Kevin that still worked at that other job. There's no way this Kevin is 100 times more than that Kevin, just because the very nature of your work is to get better.
Yeah.
And the version of me that still worked at iRobot or, Sensata Technologies or Cognex, that version could never meet this version, could never compare to this version, because this version, it is literally our job to grow as a person and to lead by example. And so we have a huge advantage when it comes to who we become as men. And so you got to be very careful with comparison, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Comparison's going to bring you new data you're going to hopefully contextualize properly, and then that's going to help you move forward. But if you're thinking you're going to find a Kevin, that is dangerous unless you're going to aim for a Kevin eventually in the future based on where you are now, because Kevin couldn't attract a Kevin until he became this version. I hope that landed. I know that's, but I have a podcast about relationships, and I run into this a lot with couples of, well, I want someone like Kevin or someone like Emilia or someone like Taryn or someone like you. And it's, listen, you have to first become like us, but your own unique version. And then you can attract that, but you can't expect that at the beginning, because neither could we. I mean, it took me 30 years to get to a place where I could attract Emilia. And I always joke, she's 7 years younger than me, which we laugh about sometimes because she brought a painting to Thanksgiving. Her mom brought a painting that she did when she was like a little kid. And she showed me it. It says 2002. And it's like her as like a 7-year-old, and I just see 2002 and I'm like, yeah, excellent painting, because it's like her at 7 and I'm like 12 at that point, right? So it was just a funny moment. But anyways, I always joke about me at 35 can be with Emilia at 29, but there's no way me at 29 could have attracted Emilia at 29. There's no way. And I was less mature. Her at 29 is way more emotionally mature, way more well-developed than me at 29. And that's just facts. I mean, I look back at old photos and it's alarming.
I was on an interview the other day, and the person said, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I said, I appreciate that. I'm not grown up. I'm a child. And I said, I'm not even going to let you say that. I want you, what episode are you on? It was like 20. And I said, I want you to go listen to our 20th episode. You're better than I was at 20 episodes in. So that is my next level nugget for this episode. You have to compare to accuracy. You have to compare to truth. You have to compare to a certain time on the timeline if it's actually going to be valuable. If you're a new podcaster, go listen to episode 1. If you're a new business owner, listen to older episodes where we were new in business. If you're new in a relationship and this is your first relationship, that was me when I was 16 and I had no idea what I was doing. Maybe younger, 15, 14, I don't even know. But that comparison can be powerful as long as you're using it in an aligned way. I want to make sure that lands, because just like anything else, social media has downsides, but it has upsides. Technology has downsides, but it has upsides. There's a lot of things out there that if we use them incorrectly, they will hurt us. And there are some things that no matter what may hurt us, but I don't think comparison has to be one of them. I think there's definitely a lot of room for growth and experimentation and, as you know, one of my favorite things in the world, contrast. What is your next level nugget, sir, before we go?
I was in book club, and we were talking about comparison, so this is very appropriate.
Okay.
And I joked about how when I was a kid, you would see these movies that took place, quote unquote, in high school, and there was 35-year-old dudes who look like me now playing a 15-year-old. And when I was 15, I remember looking at that going, I am the worst. Like, why don't I have any muscles? Why am I short? Why am I, So again, to Kevin's point, same next level nugget. If you're going to compare, just make sure you're comparing 15 to 15 and not 15 to 35. And please don't compare yourself to Brad Pitt and Troy in 2004 like I did, because he was 42 years old and I was 88 to 16. I was 16 years old. So make sure your comparison is accurate. That's all.
21 Jump Street, Channing Tatum went from a supposed high school student to Magic Mike in a couple of years, I think. So
yeah,
quite the glow up, as the kids are saying. Next Level Nation, if you have not joined our private Facebook group yet, again, appropriately named Next Level Nation, please do. An amazing group of amazing humans who want growth, vulnerability, perspective, as I say a million times an episode, but they want to be the next level versions of themselves. It's very clear if you're listening to this, you want that as well. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with other people that do as also. Link will be in the show notes, and we'd love to see you there.
The GoFundMe, as we've been talking about in the latest episodes, but for those of you who haven't seen or listened to the episodes around this, we are doing the Next Level Hope Foundation holiday event on December 10th. We rented out the YMCA, and it's going to be pizza, arts and crafts, sports. We're also bringing Books for Babes, a full box of books for the kids, and we're going to be wrapping presents, footballs, basketballs, frisbees. I forget, what's the ball toss game called?
What?
The one with the two handle.
Oh, I don't know. It's
ball toss, maybe.
Yeah, I don't really know what it's called. I don't know if it has a name.
All of the presents are to encourage fitness, and then books, obviously, is to encourage learning. So really good stuff. The GoFundMe, we are currently, as of this recording, only $50 away from goal. By the time this comes out, we might actually have hit goal. At least check it out. Check the link out at the in the show notes. And there's a video from last year. And the video from last year shows you how much fun we had and how awesome it was. So it's for kids with single parents, to help the single parents make the holidays special. And please contribute. And if we already hit our goal, maybe you can contribute next time.
Tomorrow, for episode number 1536, a simple practice for increased positivity. I am excited to do that one. I don't know if we've ever done an episode like we're going to do that one, or I guess maybe on that topic, the way we're going to do it. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Compare intentionally. Next Level Nation.